My whole life turned out to be a lie. You are not the father of a biological child, and your wife cheated on you even when she was pregnant. Is it possible to start your life with a clean slate, or is it simply impossible to justify yourself from such a situation? That's what today's story is all about. Boss, yes, just a minute. I smiled. Denise always called me boss, which I thought was funny because we were the same age and worked together at my old company. She was my right-hand woman and the first person I hired when I started my own accounting firm. She moved with me from my old place and had been an outstanding employee and friend. She and I were partners, and we had 10 other employees. It was a nice little group, and we all got along well. We hired one loser but quickly got rid of him because no one could stand him. Morale was good because the company was doing well, and 40% of the profits were shared among employees in addition to a competitive salary and benefits package. However, now Denise looked unhappy. Something was bothering her. What's wrong, Denise? You look worried. Is there a problem with one of our clients? She shook her head and started to speak several times but stopped. What the hell, Denise? It's me, Jim. Whatever the problem is, you can tell me. We can handle it. Perhaps the problem is at home. Is everything okay at home? Are the kids okay? Is Marvin okay? She didn't say anything. Instead, she handed me her phone. I had never seen Denise so worried and strange. I took her phone, and several photographs were opened. It seemed they were pictures of two people near a hotel, but I could not see their faces. I enlarged the image. Wow, it was Bonnie, my wife, and some guy I didn't recognize. In one photo, they were standing close. She didn't look upset. What the hell? I looked at Denise. Did you take these pictures? Yes. I was getting gas at the intersection of Duke and Lawrence. There's a small hotel nearby, and I saw a couple come out of one of the rooms. I wasn't really paying attention, but then I thought the woman looked familiar. So I focused on her and realized it was Bonnie. They talked for a while, and then the guy came closer. I took a few pictures, and then they came even closer, and I took the last picture. Did they do anything else? Denise seemed reluctant to answer. Yes, what the guy kissed her. Bonnie tried to pull away. No, she didn't. I'm so sorry, Jim. Maybe it's a misunderstanding, but I thought you should know. I was amazed. I didn't recognize the guy, but I think Bonnie did. Thanks, Denise. I appreciate it. When did you take these? Yesterday at lunchtime. Yesterday? Crap. Bonnie cheated on me yesterday. Did she just have proximity with another guy at lunch? Thanks, Denise. Can you forward me the photos? Yes. You'd think I'd be furious, but I wasn't yet. It was just a photograph. Everyone has a double somewhere. Perhaps Bonnie's double was in town. Denise sent me the photos, and I enlarged them on the monitor. It was definitely Bonnie. I looked at the background, hoping to see some cars. Two of the pictures showed nothing, but the third showed Bonnie's blue Tesla Model 3. Crap, so much for Bonnie's doppelganger. I still didn't feel any emotion. I felt like a detached observer. This couldn't be real. It must be a misunderstanding, like Denise said. I had a perfect marriage with Bonnie. We loved each other. We had a great relationship. We didn't have any problems with money. Bonnie was a very successful real estate agent, and my accounting firm was also doing well. We had a beautiful baby boy who was now 4 months old. Why did she sleep with another guy? The guy in the photos looked okay, but no better than me. He had stubble, wore a leather jacket and faded blue jeans, and seemed like a bit of a bad guy. But Bonnie had never shown that she liked bad boys. I needed more information. It was time to visit the hotel. I was not familiar with this hotel, but it was easy enough to find. I printed out the 3 photos Denise had sent me and filled my wallet with cash in case financial convincing was needed. Hopefully, I could get information from a bored teenager who didn't care. I entered the lobby. An elderly woman stood behind the counter. Crap. She greeted me and asked if I needed a room. I took out the photographs and asked if she had seen these people before. "I'm sorry, sir, but I cannot disclose such information." Crap. But I was ready. I showed her the wedding photo of Bonnie and me. "Madam, this is my wife, and it looks like my wife in these other photos." I'm confused. "I'm just trying to find out if my wife is cheating on me. I don't have a gun. I'm not going to cause a massacre. All I want is to find out what's going on. I can't accuse my wife of cheating based on just 3 photos. I need more information and I'm willing to pay for it." I took out my money and showed it to her. She looked at me, probably wondering if I was going to go crazy. I hoped my calm explanation would convince her of my safety. "Listen, if you saw pictures of your spouse kissing another person, wouldn't you want to know the truth? That's all I want. My wife and I have a wonderful marriage and a 4-month-old boy. I can't believe she could be unfaithful. The photos are pretty clear, and that's her car in the background. I need to know what's going on. Please." I moved the money toward her, but she pushed it away and started talking. "They've been coming here for years. They always come at lunch about once a month. They were here yesterday, but I hadn't seen her for months before that. I assumed it was because she was pregnant. She was 7 or 8 months pregnant, probably the last time I saw her. Bonnie dated this guy once a month for years, and she saw him when she was 7 or 8 months pregnant. Bonnie and I didn't even have intimacy then. I felt uncomfortable with her being so far away." The woman stopped talking and looked at me, probably trying to gauge my reaction. I no longer felt like a distant observer, but I had no intention of scaring the woman who had just helped me. I insisted that she take the money. "Thank you. Thank you very much. It looks like my marriage isn't as good as I thought it was. I have proof that Bonnie is cheating on me, but no explanation as to why. It doesn't make sense. We had a perfect marriage. I need to know why." Luckily, we both had iPhones with the tracking feature activated because I lost my phone last year. I decided to wait until Bonnie showed up at the hotel again and bought a device that amplifies conversations so I could hear them from the car. It sounded like something out of a James Bond movie, but it was easy to find at an electronics store. It looked like a handheld mini satellite dish, just point and listen. I tested it out and could hear conversations from the hotel clearly. The problem was timing. The hotel employee said that Bonnie and this guy usually saw each other once a month, but Bonnie had just seen him, and her intimate drive was high again. She wasn't going to leave me alone for a month, but I absolutely didn't want her to touch me. I had to do my best to be polite around her. I literally flinched when she tried to touch me one evening, and she noticed immediately. "What's happened?" she asked. "Sorry, I think I have a cold. You better not touch me." "Oh no," she said sympathetically. "How can I help you?" "Thanks, but I already took the pill. Maybe I should move to the guest room until I feel better. Don't want you to get sick." She looked sympathetic. "Okay, I hope you get better soon. Let me know if you need anything. You always take such good care of me when I'm sick." The immediate problem was solved, but the flu excuse wouldn't last a month. Bonnie would either start to worry about me or become suspicious if my flu didn't go away in a few days. Luckily, I didn't have to wait a month. My sweet, faithful wife couldn't even wait 2 weeks. Perhaps it was because I pushed her away, but her car showed up at the hotel a week after my last visit. I felt sick and disgusted by her, but I hurried to the hotel. It took me a few tries with my listening device, but I quickly found their voices. I could hear Bonnie clearly, and what I heard made me sick. They had already been in the room for some time and wasted no time. I felt sick and turned down the volume until the intimate part was over. Hopefully, I'd hear something later that would help me understand why Bonnie cheated. After intimate, they chatted for a while, and then I caught my chance. "Can I ask you something?" the guy asked. "Certainly." "Why are you here? Isn't it obvious?" "No, I mean, why do you still contact me every month for a meeting? You say you have a good relationship with Jim. You say your intimate life is great. You just gave birth to his baby, and you never say anything bad about him. From what you say, he seems like a good guy and a great husband. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy our meetings, but I don't understand why you do this if everything is so good with Jim. Why are you here with me? It's hard to explain, Bonnie said. Most of the time, I want to live the way I live with Jim, but sometimes I want to live the way I live with you. Explain. You and I would never make a good married couple. We're like oil and water together. We probably broke up more times in high school than most people date. But every time I had the urge to do something crazy, I always thought about you. When I get tired of my everyday life and want to break away, I think about you. I hate to break it to you, Bonnie, but our days of wild youth are long gone. All we do now is have intimate in this hotel. It's not like we go to wild parties like when we were young. What are we doing here? What can't you do with Jim? She sighed. He didn't seem to understand. Give me examples. Jim would never do that. Even when I tell him to take me harder, he only does it a little, no matter how much I beg. You and I are having wild intimate, we're not making love. But I would never tell Jim that I want us to have wild intimate, and he wouldn't say it to me. We just don't talk about loves that way. You and I have an animalistic, primal attitude, whereas Jim and I have a more loving relationship. Sometimes I want to be an animal, I want to have loves, not make love. Did I answer your question? Probably, but one day Jim will find out, and you'll regret it. You have a lot at stake, unlike me. I live in a studio apartment and don't have a spouse or children. We've been friends for a long time, Bonnie, and I don't want your life to fall apart. We should seriously think about stopping this. You're right. I know it's wrong, and every time I leave here, I tell myself that I won't do it again. But then the desire arises in me. I try to ignore it, but this feeling gets stronger every day until I feel the need to be bad. I finally give in and call you. I heard the sheets rustling, something was happening again. So you're right, Robert, we have to stop this, but not today, not now. After a few seconds, I heard sounds of loves and left. I couldn't stand it anymore. My last stop was Bonnie's mom. I already had enough evidence to confront Bonnie, but I wanted to have all the information before making a final decision. Bonnie mentioned that she had known this guy all her life and had broken up with him multiple times. This meant that Bonnie's mom, Maureen, probably knew something about him. I had a good relationship with Maureen. She always made me feel welcome when I visited them. It was time to visit her. I knocked, and a minute later, Maureen opened the door. Hi, Maureen. Can I come in? Of course, it's a pleasant surprise. She let me into the living room, and we sat down. How are you, Jim, and how is my beautiful grandson? Your grandson is fine, but unfortunately, I can't say the same for myself. She looked worried. Oh, what happened? I handed her the photographs of Bonnie and Robert, and Maureen's expression changed as if she had swallowed a bitter pill. I'm guessing by your expression you recognize him. Yes, she said bitterly. Robert is a bad penny who always comes back. His family moved next door to us when Bonnie was 5. There was always some kind of love-hate attraction between them. They were inseparable for a while, then they fought like cats and dogs, always stirring each other up to get into trouble. I got a call from the police when Bonnie was 13, she and Robert were shoplifting. I got a call from the police again when she was 16, they stopped Robert for drunk driving, and Bonnie was a passenger, and both were drunk. I found a pregnancy test when she was 19. I was so happy when Bonnie met you at university. You were such a sweet, polite guy, and Bonnie admired you. When you decided to get married, I was delighted. It seemed that Robert had finally moved on, but apparently not. I'm so sorry, Jim. You deserve better. What are you going to do? No, I just saw the pictures, but I know that Bonnie slept with Robert for years and even slept with Robert when she was 7 or 8 months pregnant. Maureen gasped. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. It's such a shock. I'm definitely going to leave Bonnie. I can't forgive this, but I can't leave Nathaniel. I'll probably have to make appointments, but right now I don't even want to see her. This will be hard. Thank you for having me, Maureen. I appreciate it. Please don't tell Bonnie. I promise I won't tell. I'm so sorry, Jim. Me too, Maureen. 2 weeks ago, I felt like the luckiest guy in the world. I had the best wife in the world, and now it feels like someone stuck a knife in my heart. I had all the information I needed. I was afraid of running into Bonnie, but it had to be done. I couldn't be around her anymore. I didn't even want to look at her. Strangely, I was not angry, but the feeling of melancholy was so strong that I thought my heart would break. My beautiful marriage ended because I wasn't bad enough. What a pathetic excuse for cheating on your husband. I needed a clean break. Bonnie could be persistent, and I knew she would try to convince me to stay. I booked a place at a local hotel and moved some of my things there while Bonnie was away. I was going through our personal papers when I came across Nathaniel's birth certificate, and a wave of nostalgia washed over me. I was so happy on his birthday. I don't know why, but I first noticed Nathaniel's blood type in another document. I didn't even know what hers was until that moment. I knew my blood type and Bonnie's blood type because we both donated blood, but I didn't know Nathaniel's blood type. Anger flared up inside me. If Bonnie has been cheating on me for years, maybe Nathaniel isn't even my child. That would be a low blow. I went online and looked up possible blood type combinations. My heart sank to my feet. According to the tables, Nathaniel could not be my child. I checked several other sites, and they all showed the same thing. I called my doctor and told her that I had an emergency and needed to see her as soon as possible. She was able to see me the next day. I took Nathaniel's birth certificate, my blood card, and Bonnie's blood card with me and showed them to Jill, my doctor. She confirmed that Nathaniel could not be mine. I was shocked. Not only had my wife been cheating on me for years, but now my son turns out to be not my son. I drank myself into oblivion. You have to know something about me to understand what I did next. I hate confrontation. I've always avoided them. If I don't like someone, I avoid them, cutting them out of my life. This works quite well. Sometimes I can't avoid a person, but usually, I can. I am this way because my parents spent years yelling and swearing at each other instead of getting a divorce. If I have to confront or quarrel with someone, I do it, but only if there is no other choice. I was afraid of running into Bonnie because I didn't want to see her at all. I wanted to cut her out of my life, but I couldn't because I would have to deal with her because of Nathaniel. I would have to live in the same city, and I knew that she would try to win me back. I was stumped. But now that Nathaniel was not mine, there was no need for me to stay. I know this sounds harsh, but give me a break. Bonnie cheated on me for years, and my child turned out not to be my child. My child is Robert's child. Would you like to live with a cheating wife and raise her lover's child? If yes, then you are an idiot. Sorry, I'm a little excited. I didn't say I wouldn't miss Nathaniel because I raised him for 4 months and loved him dearly. But now it was time for Robert to step up because I wasn't going to raise someone else's child. Besides, Bonnie was a wonderful mother, and Nathaniel will be raised with love. In a few months, the baby won't even remember me. I'll still remember him, but he won't. I would give anything to see the look on Bonnie's face when she saw my goodbye note. I don't like confrontation, but she ruined my life and broke my heart, and I was not above revenge. All the evidence will be on the kitchen table when she gets home that night, and I'll be hours away to the south. Bonnie had no idea that I knew, but now she will, and she won't know where I went. I cut her out of my life the same way she cut my heart. On the table were photographs and a short note from my doctor confirming that Nathaniel could not be my child based on her blood types. I wonder if she knew that Nathaniel was not mine. I don't care. That was all. Nothing was written to me. Nothing. My parents knew I was leaving Bonnie, and Bonnie's mom knew. Bonnie could find out from them. I don't owe her anything. She won't get a chance to apologize or beg me. She will never be able to talk to me again. The only person who knew where I was going was Denise, who had no pity for Bonnie. We had $60,000 of equity in our house and $50,000 in a joint savings account, so I withdrew $30,000 to cover my equity share. Bonnie made enough to cover the mortgage payments on her own, and if for some reason she couldn't, it was no longer my problem. Nathaniel wasn't my son, so the law couldn't go after me for child support, and Bonnie made the same amount as me, so the law couldn't come after me for spousal support either. Goodbye, Bonnie. The place I chose for temporary shelter was Silver City, New Mexico. It was a small town of 10,000 people in a sparsely populated area in the southwest of the state with a diverse community of people. There was an arts community, some tourism, some mining, and Western New Mexico University. The only reason I knew about Silver City was because of my uncle. He lived there when I was a child, and we got along well. When I was 13, he asked if I would like to come and stay with him during the March holidays. I really liked it. When I left home, it was cold and dreary, and there was snow outside. When I arrived at my uncle's place, it was 60 degrees, sunny, and dry, which felt like heaven, and I could see low mountains in the background. I'd never seen mountains before. Cool. There were miles of desert vegetation on the road from El Paso Airport to Silver City. I felt like I was in the wild, wild west. The week flew by quickly. I rode a horse for the first time, hiked in the Gila National Forest, ate at an authentic Mexican restaurant, and saw a real cowboy. It was the best trip of my life, and I was sad to go home. I went back every year for the next 3 years and loved it. Then my uncle moved. It's a pity, but thanks to him, when I left, I didn't even think about where to go. I went to Silver City. It was halfway across the country in a secluded place that Bonnie didn't even know about. I could hide there until I decided what to do with my life. My mood improved a little when I arrived, thanks to the bright sunshine and the nostalgic feelings I had for the place. I chuckled when I heard the locals complaining about the cold because 60 degrees seemed sweet to me. I forgot how small the city is. It was possible to get from one end to the other in a few minutes. There were no traffic jams, and the air was crystal clear. I found a nice 2-bedroom apartment within a few days, and the rent was ridiculously low compared to back home. I called Denise when I arrived to let her know I was okay and then did absolutely nothing but be sad and drink for a week. It quickly became boring, and I hated the feeling of a hangover, so I started studying the local economy. Perhaps I could find a job as an accountant or open my own company here. It gave me something to do and kept my mind occupied. I didn't worry about money. I still owned half of my old company, had a lot of investments, had $30,000 in my savings account, and living in Silver City was cheap. Denise and I Skyped every day to discuss business matters because life went on even though I was gone. Once I had an internet connection, I resumed some work duties. I didn't want to leave Denise. I couldn't expect her to do her job and mine while I was deciding what to do with my life. If I had decided not to return, she would have hired someone else. Until then, she was willing to tolerate me. She was a good friend. I got news from Mom and Dad and Bonnie's mom that Bonnie was desperate to find out where I was, but they didn't know. Denise was the only person who knew where I was. I didn't tell Mom and Dad because they were still seeing Bonnie, and she might have gotten my location from them. Bonnie could be quite persuasive. Mom and Dad were unhappy with Bonnie's betrayal, but their desire to see their grandson was stronger than their irritation with Bonnie. They didn't seem to care that Nathaniel wasn't really their grandson. Moreover, they liked Bonnie. Who didn't like her? I used to love her too. One day, Denise called me, and she was clearly not in a good mood. "You owe me a lot, Jim." "Oh?" She didn't call me boss. "Something happened." "What's happened?" "Bonnie came to work yesterday, and it was unpleasant." "What happened?" Bonnie was polite at first. She asked Carla at the front desk if she could see me. She said it was important. Carla knew Bonnie was your wife, so she contacted me, and I agreed to see her. Carla walked Bonnie into your office, which is now my office, and Bonnie immediately became confused. "Where's Jim?" she asked. "Denise," I pretended not to know. "I don't know, Bonnie." "How do you not know this?" "I mean, he's gone, and I don't know where." "Why are you in his office?" "This is my office now. Jim left and said he wasn't coming back and told me to take over his office." "He's gone forever?" "He's left the company?" Bonnie asked with a shocked look. "He said so. He said he wouldn't come back." "Did he say why he left?" "He said it was personal. He didn't say anything else." "And you haven't heard from him since then?" "I'm not very good at lying, Jim, so when I didn't say anything, Bonnie became suspicious." You talked to Jim, didn't you? I didn't say anything, and Bonnie started to get upset, and I started to get nervous. Denise, this is important. Jim's gone. He's not home anymore. He didn't even leave a note. I'm crazy worried about him, and Nathaniel misses his dad. If you know where he is, please tell me. Denise, I was pretty worried because Bonnie had a desperate look on her face, but I was also angry at her. After all, I knew she'd been cheating on you for years, and Nathaniel wasn't even yours, so it was hard for me to sympathize. Plus, I knew you were okay, even though Bonnie didn't know that. So, I repeated that I don't know where you are. Bonnie was furious. She started screaming that she didn't believe me and wouldn't leave until I told her. I began to worry about my safety, thinking that Bonnie might go crazy. Her face turned red. Bonnie's scream caught the staff's attention, and I noticed Todd standing at my door to check if everything was okay. God bless Todd, he weighs over 200 pounds of muscle. I felt safe and asked Bonnie to leave. She didn't leave, so I nodded to Todd, and he escorted Bonnie outside as gracefully as possible. She was miserable, Jim, and so was I. I know you didn't leave a note to make her feel the pain, but I suffered the consequences of your little prank. You owe me a lot for having to go through this. Damn. I'm sorry, Denise. I should have known Bonnie would come to work looking for me. Sorry. What can I do to fix this? I'm still thinking about it, she said rudely. I knew everything was fine at this point because Denise's angry tone began to fade. I apologized again just to be sure, and she muttered quietly. I waited a bit for Denise to calm down, plus I wanted to make sure she received the apology flowers I sent her. Then I called to see what she thought about my idea of opening an accounting office in Silver City. She thought it was a great idea if it would make me happy. I love Denise. I'll need at least one person to help, though. I could hire a local, but it would be nice to start with at least one experienced person I know. Most people in the office have families, and they probably wouldn't want to move to a secluded place like Silver City. Denise said she would ask if anyone was interested in my idea and moving. A week later, I called her back. Hi, Denise. Hi, Jim. How are you? Good. The weather is sunny and 60 degrees. How are you? You just can't resist mentioning the weather, can you, you scoundrel? You know very well that we have knee-deep frost and snow here. I laughed. Sorry, Denise. No, you're not sorry. So, anyone interested in moving to Silver City? Actually, yes. Julie Kim is interested. Remember her? We hired her 3 years ago straight out of university, and she was great. Remember her, Jim? The girl with the beautiful combination of Asian and white features? The girl with the curvy body that you couldn't stop watching during the interview? Denise, are you implying that I hired Julie because of her looks? I hired her, remember? I wouldn't let you decide. You slobbered too much. Anyway, she doesn't seem to like cold winters and wet summers any more than you do, which means she doesn't like them at all. And she's free, so she has no attachments that could hold her back. Denise fell silent. Denise, so what? And I think you like her. Me? I didn't notice that. That's because you were happily married to Bonnie and didn't notice the romantic feelings of your employees. Believe me, Jim, there was interest. So, are you interested in her coming to help you? I promised her that she could return to her old job if she doesn't like it here. It was interesting to me. Julie would be ideal to help get started. She is young, energetic, and talented, and I did not believe Denise's words that I liked her. I'm 8 years older than her. For the first time in a long time, I felt excited. If Julie is interested, then I'm interested too. Tell her to come as soon as possible. I know we can make money here. Thanks, Denise. I owe you a lot. Absolutely true. As it turns out, Robert tried to be a responsible parent and moved in with Bonnie, but that only lasted a few months. Bonnie may have needed to scratch her wild itch every now and then, but the rest of the time, she wanted a supportive, responsible spouse. Robert was neither one nor the other. He was a mediocre salesman at GM, didn't make much money, and liked to spend it on cigarettes, eating out, and alcohol. He didn't like helping to cook the food like I did, and he wasn't interested in changing diapers, mowing the lawn, buying groceries, or doing any of the boring things I did with Bonnie. Robert continued to sleep with other women after moving in with Bonnie. He took a short break but then continued his love affairs, which Bonnie discovered. She wasn't happy and kicked him out. Obviously, bad boys make exciting lovers but not good husbands and fathers. A few months after Robert moved in with Bonnie, my parents came to see Nathaniel on a Sunday morning and saw Robert leaving Bonnie's house. She looked a little embarrassed, as if she had just had a good time. This was probably the case. There was obviously a physical connection between Bonnie and Robert, even if she couldn't stand living with him. Julie tried her best. She had an old car, and the drive to Silver City was long, so she left her car with a friend and flew to El Paso. El Paso is just 3 hours from Silver City. Julie's plane landed, and I was waiting for her in the arrivals area. A big smile appeared on her face when she saw me, and she walked towards me carrying 2 huge suitcases and 2 bags over her shoulder. I extended my hand to say hello, but she ignored it and hugged me. I didn't want to be rude, so I hugged her back. She smelled nice. I grabbed her bags, and we headed to my car while she told me about her flight. I forgot how beautiful she is. Her face was an exotic combination of Asian and European features. Unlike most Asian women I knew, she had a curvaceous figure with large breasts. It was quite a powerful combination. She was still wearing her winter jacket and boots, but as we walked out into the beautiful sunny 70 degrees weather, she stopped and enjoyed the warmth of the sun. I did this often. I couldn't believe how much nicer the dry, sunny weather was compared to the weather at home. Julie took off her jacket and boots as we approached the car and put on a pair of sandals. Several times on the way home, she stuck her hand out the window and seemed to enjoy the way the wind caressed her hand and looked at me with a big smile. She had a beautiful smile. She planned to stay in a hotel and rent a car to look for an apartment. This seemed stupid to me, considering that I had a 2-room apartment and a car. She could stay with me and use my car until she found her place. I suggested the idea to her, and she said she didn't want to impose, but I persisted until she finally said, "Are you sure?" "Absolutely." A big smile appeared on her face, and she squeezed my knee in excitement. "Thank you, Jim. That's very nice of you." My knee appreciated the gesture, and I saw her glance at me out of the corner of her eye several times as we drove home. I told her about my plans to start a business, and she showed interest and asked a lot of questions. It reminded me of the excitement I felt when Denise and I started our company. It was good to have that excitement in my life again. I was curious about one thing Denise mentioned. She said Julie's resume showed she was fluent in Spanish, which would be a big plus in Silver City, where half the population is Spanish-speaking. "Your resume says you are fluent in Spanish. Is that true?" I asked. She smiled at me. "See. Do you have full command of the language or just a little?" "Well, I might be a little rusty, but my mom made me learn Spanish from 1st grade and speak Spanish with our Spanish-speaking housekeeper. I also had a few Spanish-speaking friends, so I think I'm pretty fluent." We stopped at a roadside stand that sold fruit and went out to stretch our legs. The couple ahead of us spoke in Spanish with the shop owner. After they left, Julie smiled at me and began chatting in Spanish with the owner. I had picked up a little Spanish since living in Silver City, but Julie and the guy were talking so fast I couldn't understand what they were saying. It looked like Julie was actually fluent in Spanish. Bonus! We went to bed early and got up the next morning to start work. I showed Julie Silver City in a building with empty commercial space that I thought would be a good location for our new business. No matter what we did, watched, or discussed, Julie always had many questions. That beautiful head definitely had a sharp analytical mind. We bought some groceries, and then Julie said she wanted to go for a bike ride. Julie was a fitness enthusiast, and one of our first stops that day was to buy a used bike. By the time she returned, the room was filled with the aroma of lasagna and garlic bread. "This smells amazing. I didn't know you could cook." "Yeah, I did most of the cooking with Bonnie." She cleaned and did the laundry, and I cooked, shopped, and washed the dishes. I had to learn how to do laundry when I moved here, but it's not rocket science, and I didn't ruin my clothes, except for a white shirt which is now pink. I only made this mistake once. Although I also cut the grass and cleared the snow, there is no snow to clear, and there is no green grass to cut. Julie thought for a moment as I showed off my domestic skills. Then a small smile appeared on her face. She seemed to like what she heard. "I'll take a shower now. I'll be back in a minute," she said. I opened a bottle of wine and took out 2 glasses. It seemed appropriate to celebrate our first day, and I was thrilled that Julie was so excited. A few minutes later, Julie returned. Her black hair was still wet and smelled of fresh shampoo. She liked it when she saw the wine in glasses. "We are celebrating?" "Yes, let's celebrate. I haven't felt this excited in a long time. It reminds me of how excited I was when Denise and I started our company. I felt the same way when I was with you today. You seemed excited, which in turn excited me." I poured our glasses, and we clinked glasses. "Here's to a great first day and hopefully the first of many," I said. I wanted to say relationship instead of day, but I restrained myself. I didn't want to make Julie feel awkward. I felt chemistry between us, but I wasn't sure, and she would feel awkward working together if I did something wrong. However, she didn't seem to feel awkward and clinked her glass against mine. "That's it. Here's to the first of many days together." I didn't say together, but Julie did, and she looked at me with one of those mysterious smiles that always confused me. I didn't know what to think, so I started eating. It was a big day. Julie and I were preparing for our final presentation to a large family-owned local construction company. If we got the contract, a lot of other local companies could follow. We moved into our office a few weeks ago, which Julie decorated. Her feminine touch was noticeable when you entered the reception area. It was pleasant and bright, with several sofas and easy chairs and lots of luxurious-looking plants. The effect was inspiring. There was a very cheerful, fully bilingual female receptionist who greeted you and offered you drinks while you waited. Juanita was not only funny and bilingual but also a competent administrative assistant. We had already sent numerous proposals back and forth and had numerous calls with the company we were meeting with today. Today was the day of decision. They should have told us if we received the contract. I was wearing a business suit, and so was Julie, but she looked much better than me. Her outfit made her look completely professional but did not hide her femininity. She also wore a gold necklace and just a little makeup, which turned her naturally beautiful face into a stunning one. I saw the male owners being impressed by Julie's appearance. "We are pleased with your offer. The price is very competitive." Hell yes, she was. We lowered the price to get the contract. We wouldn't lose money, but we wouldn't make much either. We also like that we can call your office and speak Spanish. But we are concerned that your company is so small. Will you have the resources to meet our needs? I entered into the conversation. Yes, we will. I am the owner of a larger office in the north. Here is a list of some of our clients and the size of the contracts. Julie gave the brothers a complete list of all my clients. It was an impressive list, and they studied it. "So this means our work will be processed in another office?" "We assumed it would be done here to support the local economy." Julie chimed in, "Jim and I will do all the work we can with Juanita's help. The other office will only be involved if we are temporarily overwhelmed with work or require specialized knowledge that Jim and I don't have. Plus, we've been interviewing candidates from the university, and we have some excellent prospects." The brothers whispered in Spanish. I heard them but did not understand what they were saying. Suddenly, Julie started talking in Spanish. They looked surprised and started talking to her. She turned to me. "They want to know if we will guarantee to hire one of the candidates from the university if they give us a contract." I nodded in agreement. Julie continued talking to them in Spanish. They looked pleased. "Great. You get our business, and we look forward to working with you. If we like your work, we'll make sure other businesses in the community hear about you." They shook our hands and bowed to Julie, "Señorita." Julie and I were thrilled. "Let's go celebrate at a fancy restaurant," I said. She smiled. I have the best idea. Let's buy a big bottle of wine on the way home, cook a delicious dinner together, and celebrate at our place. I was so excited that I almost missed her saying our house. Did she consider my home hers? She hadn't mentioned looking for an apartment since the day she arrived. Did she want to stay with me? Had my house become our home now? I almost lost my composure when Julie came out after changing. The bottle of wine we bought was huge, and we drank slowly, cooked food, talked about the day, and did it all over again. When I looked at Julie, she didn't look like anything was wrong. Was it just me, or was there really something unbelievable between us? It's not that I'm 80 years old and have forgotten how it feels. I felt it. I was so paranoid about making the wrong move. Julie did me a huge favor by coming to help, and everything went so well. We got along well personally and at work, and it finally started to pay off with new contracts. What if I took a step and ruined everything? By the time dinner was ready, we had already had quite a bit to drink, and the food was delicious. After dinner, we chatted some more. It was so easy to talk to Julie. I felt completely at ease around her, and I think she felt the same way around me. We sat together, and sometimes she would pat my leg or arm. The evening went by quickly, and then she looked at me and said she was going to bed and that she had a wonderful evening. She seemed to pause as she said this and waited for an answer, but then she turned and walked to her room. I know I haven't dated in years, but didn't it seem like she cared about me? Isn't it? I was attracted to him from day one. Denise and Jim interviewed me, and I saw that Jim liked the way I looked. He tried to be discreet, but it was obvious. I focused my charm on him, nothing physically noticeable, just an invisible concentration of attractive energy. It wasn't difficult. Jim was handsome. He was only in his 30s and still looked great. He had a sweet face and thick blonde hair and looked dapper in a suit. He was very pleasant to talk to, very cute. My attractive attention seemed to work. I caught his gaze several times. Then Denise whispered something in his ear, and he frowned a little and walked away. Was I too obvious? Did Denise notice my flirting? Crap, could I have ruined everything because of this? But Denise asked me a few more questions and then offered me a job. Ugh, my feelings for Jim grew over time. It started with a great job offer, a competitive starting salary and benefits package, and 40% of the profits shared among the employees. Very impressive. Money has always made me happy. The company was a wonderful place to work. We closed at 5 every Friday, had a small buffet, and Jim provided taxis home for those who needed them. It was sweet and showed that Jim cares about his employees. Everyone in the office loved Jim and Denise. Everyone worked hard, and the days were long, but Jim and Denise led by example. No one worked longer than them, but there was a balance between work and home. Sometimes Jim would look at people working late and tell them to go home. Jim was very understanding if you had personal problems and needed to take a day off. He didn't even blink when my mom had surgery, and I had to take a week off. I could tell Jim was madly in love with his wife by the way they acted with each other, and he was delighted to learn that he would soon become a father. I was jealous of Bonnie. She had a good man. I was hoping to meet someone like him. Then he disappeared. He just disappeared, bang. Nobody knew what happened. We were all shocked. He was the life of the party. He hired most of us. He mentored us. We were a family. All Denise said was that it was personal. Then one day, Bonnie came, and the chaos began. We could hear Bonnie yelling at Denise about Jim's disappearance. This behavior had a bad effect on morale, so the next day Denise gathered us and told us what happened. Jim found out that Bonnie had been cheating on him for years and that Nathaniel wasn't even his son, so he left. I felt so sorry for Jim. How could a woman do this to her husband? And how could Bonnie do this to Jim? He was such a wonderful guy and loved the ground Bonnie walked on. It didn't make sense. I was depressed until Denise later asked if anyone would like to go to Silver City, New Mexico, to help Jim start a new business. I was thrilled when no one else applied. I would be alone with Jim and apply for a job. I wasn't dating anyone and was excited about the opportunity to be with Jim and be a part of building a new business from the ground up. Denise showed me where Silver City is on the map. Oh, my excitement subsided for a moment. It was in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico, which was not on my list of preferred states to move to. But I was so excited about the personal and work opportunities that I ignored any concerns about the location and agreed to go. I didn't even ask Denise questions about finances until later. Any second thoughts disappeared when Denise said I could go back to my old job if I wanted. I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. I had a little panic during the flight. My lease expired a few weeks before I left, and I didn't renew it. My cozy, inexpensive apartment had disappeared. All my earthly things were in suitcases and in storage. Jim originally said he would meet me at the El Paso airport, but then he said he couldn't. I immediately thought about the worst. Did this mean that he had misgivings about me? Then there was general anxiety about whether I would be up to the task of helping Jim start a new business. I was only 24 years old. What if I disappointed Jim? You have no idea how surprised and relieved I was when I walked into the arrivals area and saw Jim waiting for me with a friendly smile. I rushed to him as fast as I could drag my heavy suitcases and hugged him tightly. I told him I was surprised he came. I still remember what he said. Well, I had an important meeting planned, but then I thought about how I would feel if I left everything behind and moved to help a guy in the middle of nowhere, and he didn't even bother to meet me. I don't care. I loved it, so I'm here because I want you to know how excited I am to work with you. Warm waves went through my body when I heard this. The next pleasant surprise was when we emerged from the air-conditioned airport. I was still wearing winter clothes from home and was freezing due to the air conditioning of the plane. The feeling on the street was like being in heaven. It's so warm, and the sun is so bright, not the pale winter sun from the north that I'm used to. I even stopped to enjoy this feeling for a minute. I looked at Jim, and he smiled at me. He later told me that he experienced the same thing when he was younger and came here. I couldn't resist opening the car window on the way home and letting the wind and sun caress my hand. My anxiety about moving to Silver City began to subside. Jim asked me if I spoke Spanish fluently. This was a difficult question. When I was little, we had a Spanish-speaking maid at home, and my mother forced her to speak Spanish to me. It didn't make sense to me at the time, but my brain quickly picked up the language. When my mom made me learn Spanish at school, it was easy. I happened to have school friends who actually taught me how to speak Spanish, including all the attractive and colloquial terms. We stopped at a roadside fruit and vegetable stand. The seller was Spanish, and the couple in front of us spoke Spanish. This was the perfect opportunity for me to test my Spanish. The seller was surprised but pleased when the girl with half Asian features began talking to him in perfect Spanish. I was even more excited when I looked at Jim, who seemed very happy. I couldn't stop looking at Jim on the way home. He looked different. He always wore a suit at work, but today he was wearing a casual t-shirt and denim shorts. He had good legs, and he was tanned all over. His long blonde hair looked delicious. He told me about his business plans, and I could tell he was excited. His enthusiasm was contagious, and I started asking him all sorts of questions. I was amazed when Jim invited me to stay in his apartment until I found my own. This was beyond his responsibilities, and it fueled my romantic desires. I thought I'd be alone in a hotel until I found an apartment, and then maybe, if things worked out between me and Jim, something might happen at his place. I just skipped all these steps and moved straight in with Jim. Hooray! I was so excited that I got carried away and squeezed his knee. He didn't seem to mind. Jim showed me around Silver City the next day, and then I went for a long bike ride. I loved cycling and needed exercise after the long flight and car ride the previous day. When I returned, the smell of something delicious hit me as soon as I opened the door. Jim told me that he did all the cooking and grocery shopping when he was with Bonnie. I didn't like to cook, but I loved to eat, and I checked Jim's name as a potential romantic partner. The expression "the way to a man's heart is through his stomach" applied to me the same as it does to any guy. When I returned from the shower, there was a bottle of wine and 2 glasses on the table. Cute. I asked if we were celebrating something, and Jim said yes and exclaimed that he hadn't felt this excited in a long time. Here's to a great first day and hopefully the first of many. I felt very welcome. The next day, we threw ourselves into work. We prioritized what needed to be done, such as renting an office and identifying services offered, etc. Jim had already found a promising location near the city center. He showed it to me, and I liked it too. It was the perfect location for a small business, and the floor plan was completely open, giving us complete freedom in interior design and color choices. Jim looked at me. I'm not very good at visualizing space. I have a hard time visualizing how everything will come together according to plan. Denise designed and decorated our old office. Would you like to do this? You definitely don't want me to do this. Trust me. You're okay with this? Wow, he entrusted me with the design of our new office. I was a little nervous, but I was excited that he was relying on me so much and excited for the challenge. Yes, I'd love to do some office design. Thanks, Jim. We met every day to compare notes, set priorities, and distribute work. It was a lot of work, but it was exciting to create something from scratch. Most nights, I was exhausted and went to bed by 9 o'clock. I was thrilled when the office was completed. It looked just as good as I had hoped. There was a large entrance area for customers to wait, which was very welcoming. It was very bright and full of plants with comfortable furniture. The workspace was designed as an open plan with natural light and plenty of plants. It had to be a place that would lift your spirits when you came to work or visit. Jim really liked it and hugged me. He couldn't stop talking about what a great job I did. I burst with pride, and when he hugged me, I hugged him back tightly. Working with him was so inspiring and uplifting. Every day, I woke up full of enthusiasm for the day ahead. How many people can say the same thing? Every day, Jim and I grew closer and closer. We learned how each other thinks and works. We began to specialize based on our strengths and weaknesses. Our individual visions for the business merged into a common one. We were on the same page. It was so exciting. We even started finishing each other's sentences. We began to specialize at home as a couple. He fed me delicious meals every day, and I kept our place and our clothes tidy and clean. We began to feel comfortable with each other physically. We usually wore shorts and t-shirts, and seeing each other in underwear wasn't a big deal. We were like a couple in every way except one, closeness. I was so excited. I wanted to touch Jim so bad. There was so much positive energy between us, work enthusiasm, trust, respect, acceptance, and closeness energy. I felt it, and I knew Jim did too. I could barely restrain myself from touching him and became more and more affectionate and huggy every day. Our greatest success was when we received a contract from the Spinoza Construction Company. We put a ton of work into it and sat down with the two brothers to hear their decision. We both dressed up. Jim looked delicious in his suit. I was in costume too, and when Jim saw me, he literally drooled. I loved the way he looked at me. The brothers had concerns, but we anticipated every one of them. Jim and I switched easily, solving their problems like a well-oiled machine. The brothers were concerned about supporting the local economy and began talking quietly to each other in Spanish about getting a commitment from us to hire a local graduate if they gave us the contract. I interrupted in Spanish, which surprised them. They didn't know that I spoke Spanish and smiled. They repeated the concerns they had discussed among themselves. We were already interviewing recent graduates in anticipation of expansion, so I knew Jim would agree to their request. I double-checked with him, and he nodded his head in agreement. I told the brothers in Spanish that we would hire a local. This convinced them. We were in seventh heaven. Jim suggested we go celebrate, but I had other plans. I wanted to come home and celebrate with a good bottle of wine, a wonderful dinner, exciting conversation, and closeness. I was sure that tonight would be the one. I wore bright neon pink spandex shorts and a sports bra that left nothing to the imagination and left no doubt about my intentions. Jim's eyes nearly popped out of his head when he saw me. The evening unfolded perfectly. We were already on cloud 9 and so proud of ourselves. The night got better and better as we drank, talked, and ate. I touched him all night. I accidentally brushed my foot against Jim's leg while we were cooking and repeatedly stroked his arm and leg. I knew it was time. I looked him straight in the eye, squeezed his thigh hard, and used my best sultry eyes. What then? I purred each word slowly into his ear, squeezed his thigh even higher, and pressed my bare leg against his. I had a wonderful evening, Jim. I'm going to bed. I was sure that he would follow me, but he didn't. What? I went to bed very upset. This was the moment of truth. I couldn't stand the stress of not knowing if there was a chance of a romantic relationship with Jim any longer. If not, then I would move. No offense. I would be disappointed, but it would still be exciting and rewarding to build a new business with Jim, and I would have a good friend and mentor. I would have to take cold showers for 6 months. I showered and then applied a light layer of perfume in a few strategic places. My hair was still wet from the shower and smelled like fresh shampoo. I put my ankle bracelet on because I knew Jim thought it was great, and I put on my short white terry robe. It was perfect for this occasion. It barely covered my 5th point. If Jim doesn't want me, I'll leave him tied, but if he wants me, I'll untie him. Good morning, Jim, I said cheerfully. Jim raised his head. Good morning, Julie. He seemed happy to see me, which boosted my confidence. Do you have a minute to talk? Certainly. I was hoping we could do an informal evaluation of my performance so you could give me feedback. Are you satisfied with my performance? He smiled. Are you kidding me? You know I'm pleased. You were fantastic from the moment you arrived. It couldn't have been better. I blushed at the praise. So on a scale of 1 to 10, is my job an 8 or a 9? He shook his head and frowned. No, not even close. It's 15. Then he laughed. Come on, Julie, you know how much I enjoy working with you, and the results speak for themselves. We're doing well, and it's as much your credit as it is mine. I blushed even more. I thought I was doing a good job, but it was great to hear such unconditional praise. Okay, so far so good. It's time to ask the next question. Can I ask you one more question? Certainly. Aren't you worried that I haven't been looking for my own place? You haven't said anything, but I want to make sure you're not wondering when I'll get my act together and find my own place so you can get your apartment back. Oops. Jim's face showed concern. Do you want me to move out? Jim didn't say anything. Jim, I don't want you to move out. I like you living here. I just didn't know if I should say it. Why? Because I don't want you to feel uncomfortable around me. I don't want to ruin our working relationship by doing something inappropriate. I would feel terrible if I made you feel uncomfortable. What if I like living here with you? Will it bother you? No. Will this make you happy? Yes. So it won't upset you if I don't look for another place? No. Yes. I was so excited. He loved me living here and didn't want me to leave. He was just worried about making me feel uncomfortable. He's so cute. My heart was beating with excitement and fear. It's time to risk everything. Jim, do you love me? He frowned as if I had asked a stupid question. You know I do. We get along great. No, I don't mean loving like that. I mean a different kind of love, the romantic type of love. His face went blank, and he looked like a deer in headlights. I had to take the initiative into my own hands. I'm asking because I love you romantically. I think about you all the time. Not only do I love working with you, but I love you. I tried to give you signs, like last night when I wore pink spandex shorts and a top and was with you all the time, but it doesn't seem to work, and I'm confused. It's like the chemistry between us, I feel it in the air, but you don't do anything. So here I am, maybe embarrassing myself to death and ruining our working relationship, but I need to know. I can't stand the uncertainty anymore. Yes, he whispered. Oh my God, I breathed a sigh of relief. But why didn't you say or do anything? I was afraid. Afraid of what? I was afraid of making a mistake and making you uncomfortable around me, and ruining our relationship. Oh my God, I felt so relieved. He loved me and just cared about me. Now I felt more confident, excited, and joyful. I didn't want to wait any longer. I patted the couch so Jim could sit next to me and lean back. Do you find me beautiful? Yes, he croaked. Do you like what you see now? Yes, he croaked again. Do you want to be with me? Yes. Do you want to be with me now? Yes. I slowly untied the belt of my robe. Tell me if you want me to stop, Jim. His gaze was fixed on my hands, but he did not stop me. Last chance to stop me, Jim. He looked fascinated. Incredible energy was seething in my body. Jim, I said. He looked up from my body as if in a trance. Take off your clothes. He slowly began to remove his clothes piece by piece as if in a trance, never losing eye contact. I felt like an incredible Amazon, my body filled with incredible energy. Jim, I need you to make love to me. We made love, and then he offered to carry me to the bedroom. He stood up, and before I could move, he easily picked me up. As he carried me across the threshold of his bedroom, it felt like a wedding moment. This definitely seemed like a good omen. I was delighted, and it was Saturday. We had the whole day to get to know each other better, and so we did. Harder, Jim, and faster, moaned Julie. I looked down at Julie's beautiful, excited face. I loved seeing the look of bliss on her face when she was aroused, and I was the reason. She was 5 months pregnant and looked radiant. She had a baby bump, and her breasts were getting bigger. It was quite a stimulating sight, and I complied with her request to make the movement stronger and faster. I received a message from Denise. Jim, when you get this message, call me back. Call home if you don't make it before tonight. This is important. I immediately called Denise back as soon as I received her message because she sounded upset. What happened, Denise? I talked to Julie today, and she told me that you're still not divorced from Bonnie. Is that true? Julie told you that? Yes. I worked with her a lot on your new contracts and got to know her well. I really like her, she's smart as hell and a wonderful person. But today, she was kind of off, so I asked what was wrong. She said, I just found out that you're still married to Bonnie. Is it true? Crap. I received a legal document stating that I am not Nathaniel's father. It was easy because my doctor had all the information about blood types to prove it. I then hired a lawyer to divorce Bonnie, but she resisted until she saw me. Julie accidentally saw the correspondence with my lawyer on my computer, but at that moment, she did not seem upset. Yes, it's true. Denise took a deep breath. Damn, Jim. Julie is almost having your baby, and you're still married to Bonnie? What the hell were you doing? You should have divorced Bonnie a long time ago. Wow, Denise was really pissed. Was Julie upset when she spoke to you? Of course she was. She moved halfway across the country and left all her friends and family to work with you. You got her pregnant, and she's almost given birth and then found out you were still married to your ex. She's a young girl, Jim, and this is her first child, and her hormones are raging. She doesn't need to find out that the father of her child is still married to someone else. Yes, when after divorce did you tell her about this? No, not yet. Oh God, if you were here, Jim, I would hit you on the head. She's about to give birth, and you haven't even talked to her about marriage? No. There was silence on the line. Denise was really furious. I know you don't like confrontation and don't want to see Bonnie, but you need to pull yourself together and resolve this now. What would you suggest, Denise? I can't get Bonnie to sign, and I didn't realize Julie was upset. She didn't tell me anything. If Bonnie wants to see you, then I suggest you get off your fifth point and come here. This is ridiculous, Jim. You should have dealt with this a long time ago. I can't come now, Denise. We have too much work. There's nothing Julie and the others can't handle. Get up and move now. I don't want to leave Julie alone, considering she's come so far. Julie's a grown woman, Jim. She can handle it. I can assure you, it's much more stressful for her knowing you're still married to Bonnie. Okay, I will come. When? Next week? No, you need to come tomorrow. No more excuses. Clean yourself up. Julie's happiness should be your first priority. You know why Bonnie wants to see me, don't you? She wants to make me change my mind. So what? Who cares what she wants? She cheated on you and lied about the baby. You don't owe her anything. I wouldn't wish what she did to you on my worst enemy. But you're incredibly lucky to have Julie, so get yourself together and deal with Bonnie so you don't ruin everything with Julie. Okay. I'll come tomorrow. Great. And call Bonnie. Tell her you want to see her tomorrow night. What if she's busy? She works a lot in the evenings. She might already have an appointment with a client. Trust me, Jim. When she hears your voice after you've been missing for almost a year, she will make time. She knows this is her last chance to get you back. I asked Julie if she would mind me going to Bonnie's, and her face lit up. She hugged me tightly. Apparently, it bothered her, as Denise said. She asked me to call her as soon as I left Bonnie's house to tell her how it went. That evening, she was in the mood for affection. I hugged her belly, where a growing bump was visible, and applied vitamin E cream to it, as I did every evening. This was great for preventing stretch marks. I had done it for Bonnie, and no one would have thought she had a baby. By the time I finished, Julie was fast asleep. I, on the other hand, couldn't sleep. My thoughts were spinning around all the worst-case scenarios with Bonnie. I hadn't seen Bonnie since the day I placed evidence of her infidelity and information about Nathaniel's paternity on the kitchen table and left. Julie's love had numbed the pain I felt from Bonnie's betrayal, but now it was back. Crap. I called Bonnie, and Denise was right. Bonnie was surprised to hear my voice and agreed to see me. She offered to meet me at the airport, but Denise had to pick me up. Bonnie asked me to come over for dinner, so I borrowed Denise's car. My mood ranged from hope to anxiety to anger. I hoped that Bonnie would sign the divorce papers, but I was worried that she wouldn't, and I was angry at how she deceived me. It was strange to knock on the door of my old house. When Bonnie opened the door, a surreal picture appeared before me. It felt like I was back in time, before I found out about her cheating. My last memory of Bonnie was her visit to the hotel with Robert. I had carried this memory with me for the past year. Now, standing in front of me was the old Bonnie, the one I had once been in love with. She was dressed conservatively in beige capri pants and a matching tank top with elegant sandals. Her naturally beautiful face required no makeup. She looked beautiful and elegant as always. Bonnie greeted me with a wide smile. I felt like she wanted to hug me but held back. I smelled the faint scent of my favorite perfume. She thanked me for coming and poured me a double shot of Canada Club whiskey, which I loved. I could smell the food being cooked. This was my favorite lasagna recipe. Clearly, she was trying to impress me. Then she walked away for a moment, and my heart melted when she came back with Nathaniel. He had grown so much, and his face had changed a lot. She asked if I wanted to hold him. I knew Bonnie was using Nathaniel to get at my feelings, but I didn't care. It was great to see him. Bonnie handed Nathaniel to me, and for a second, he froze, and his little lip began to tremble. They say babies remember smells and voices, and when I spoke to him in the same sing-song tone I always used, he relaxed. Then a smile slowly spread across his face. He remembered me and knew he was safe. I hadn't seen this smile for a long time. He missed me. Bonnie said she needed to tend to her food for a second and excused herself. As soon as she left, Nathaniel's face became wrinkled and red. Crap. I recognized this expression, and a second later, I smelled it. His poop smelled just as bad as before. He always pooped when I held him. I didn't know how long Bonnie would be gone, so I took him to his room. I changed his diaper many times before I left, and within minutes, he was dry and smelling like new. When I picked Nathaniel up to go back to the other room, Bonnie smiled at us. It was time for Nathaniel to go to bed, so Bonnie put him to bed, and we sat down to eat. The food was delicious, but the atmosphere was tense. There was tension in the air, and I ate in silence, waiting for Bonnie to start talking. I felt that she wanted to say something, but she held back. I had thought a lot about how I wanted to spend this evening and waited patiently. Finally, she spoke. You were away for a long time. I was worried about you. Yeah, well, I found out something that really upset me, so I left. You know how much I don't like confrontation, I said with a new expression. She hesitated for a second at my subtle sarcasm but then continued, Where did you go? In Silver City, New Mexico? Is that where your uncle lived when you were young? Yes. And you were there the whole time? Yes. I started a new business. It's going pretty well. Does this mean you won't come back? Probably not, I said with another neutral expression. We like it there. The weather is much nicer, life is cheaper, and business is good. I waited for her to take the bait. We gotcha, Julie and me. Julie? Yes, Julie Kim. She agreed to come help me start the business. She's doing a great job. She designed our new office. It looks great, and we work well together. I asked Julie to take a selfie before I left, which showed her sitting on my lap in her nightgown. Her belly was visible, and we both looked happy in the photo. I handed my cell phone to Bonnie, and she jumped when she saw Julie and me. She's pregnant? Yes, we are very excited. The baby is due soon. Bonnie fell silent. Part of me cringed at what I was planning next, but it was necessary. I had to convince Bonnie 100% that there was no chance of us getting back together in order for her to sign the divorce papers. I didn't mean to be aggressive or loud, I just wanted to show her the truth. So, Bonnie, my lawyer said you wanted to see me before you signed the divorce papers. I'm here. What did you want to talk about? She paused for a moment. The hope in her smile when she met me and when I held Nathaniel faded and was replaced by a thoughtful expression. The sight of Julie had punctured her hopes. I guess I wanted to see you to see if there was a chance we could get back into our relationship. But it looks like you've moved on. She's really beautiful, and you look happy together. I almost didn't do what I was planning next. I'm not a vindictive person, and I was in a good position in life, but Bonnie was not. She probably would have signed the papers without it, but I never had the chance to show her how much she hurt me when she cheated on me. So I put my cell phone on the table and turned on the first recording. I had recorded a conversation with a girl at the hotel reception and a dialogue between Robert and Bonnie. Girl at the reception, they've been coming here for several years. They usually come around lunchtime once a month. They were here yesterday, but before that, I hadn't seen her for months. I assumed it was because she was pregnant. Last time I saw her, she was in her 7th or 8th month. Bonnie's face turned pale. Then I played the recording of her conversation with Robert. Robert, why are you here, Bonnie? Bonnie, isn't it obvious? Robert, no, I mean, why do you still contact me every month? You claim to have a good relationship with Jim. You say your private life is great, you just had a baby with him, and you never say anything bad about him. From what you tell me, he seems like a good guy and a caring husband. Don't get me wrong, I like our meetings, but I don't understand why you do this if everything is so good with you. Why are you here with me? Bonnie, it's hard to explain. Robert, try it. Bonnie, most of the time, I want to live the way I live with Jim, but sometimes I want to live differently than the way I live with you. Robert, what? Bonnie, you and I would never make a good married couple. We're like oil and water. We broke up more often in school than we dated. But every time I wanted something crazy, I always thought about you. When I'm tired from my everyday life and want something new, I think about you. Robert, I hate to tell you, Bonnie, but our crazy days are long gone. All we do now is have private in this hotel. We don't go on wild benders like we did in our youth. What's there that you can't do here? Do you like Jim? Give me examples. Bonnie, every time you see me, there's a look of raw lust on your face that makes my body shiver in anticipation. Robert, that's because I haven't seen you in a month, and I'm salivating at the thought of sleeping with you. If Jim hadn't seen you in a month, he'd probably be looking the same way. Bonnie, when we walk into a room, you throw me against the wall and kiss me so hard my lips hurt. Jim would never do that. He'd feel sorry for me. It's just not in his blood. Most of the time, I don't want to be thrown against the wall and kissed by force, but sometimes I want that. Bonnie, when we have private, you do it so hard the bed shakes. But Jim would never do that. He'd be afraid of hurting me. Bonnie, we're having wild intimate, we're not making love. But I would never tell Jim I wanted him to have intimate like that with me, and he wouldn't tell me that. We just don't talk about intimate that way. Bonnie, you and I have an animalistic, primal relationship, while Jim and I have a more loving relationship. Sometimes I wish I were an animal. Robert, does that answer your question? Bonnie, probably. But one day Jim will find out, and you will regret it. You have a lot in life, unlike me. I live in a one-room apartment. I have no wife and children. We have been friends for a long time, Bonnie, and I don't want to see how you're ruining your life. We should seriously think about stopping this. Bonnie, you're right. I know it's wrong, and every time I leave here, I tell myself I won't do it again. But then the urge to behave badly rises in me. I try to ignore it, but it doesn't subside. It gets stronger every day until I feel the need to be like a dirty. I finally give in and call you. So you're right, Robert, we have to stop, but not today, not yet. Bonnie turned pale, and tears ran down her cheeks. I've had enough. I got my revenge. I saw her realize how much she had hurt me. That's why I left. That's why I left without saying goodbye. My heart hurt so badly I thought I was going to die, so I ran away to Silver City and drowned my sorrows in alcohol. But I don't handle drinking well, and after a few days, when it became disgusting, I started looking around and decided to start a new business. Denise supported me, and Julie volunteered, and the rest is history. I looked Bonnie straight in the eyes. Even if I hadn't been with Julie, we would never have been able to get back together after what you did to me. I can't tell you how many times I thought about how you cheated on me for years and had intimate with Robert right up until the day I gave birth. It breaks my heart every time I think about it. So I came as you asked and showed you why we can't get back together. You heard it in your own words. Now I'd like you to sign the divorce papers. I want to go home and tell my pregnant girlfriend that I'm not married anymore because she cares, and then I want to get down on my knees and ask her to become my wife. And if you really still have feelings for me, you'll let me go. It's the least you can do after what you did to me. Will you sign the form now? I don't want to be rude, but I'm very uncomfortable being here, and I want to leave. Bonnie went to her office and returned with a signed document. Can I see Nathaniel one last time? She nodded, and I watched him sleep blissfully for 5 minutes. I began to choke up and realized that I needed to leave. I would be a good father if only Bonnie walked me to the door. Can I hug you one last time? She asked sadly. We hugged and bonded, and she held me for a minute. Then I walked away, and it was completely over between Bonnie and me. The minute the door closed, I felt a huge sense of relief. Bonnie signed. I was a free man. I was so relieved I was able to get out of there. It was the most painful experience of my life, but it was worth it. I headed to Denise's house, but I was so excited that I stopped and called Julie. Julie, hey. Jim, you sound excited. How was it? Great. Bonnie signed the divorce papers. Is it true? Yes. Was it hard? Did she give you problems? It was brutal. Bonnie didn't give me any problems, but it was the most awkward experience of my life. I think Bonnie thought we might have a chance to get back together, but she went white when I played the tapes. I almost felt sorry for her. Julie was too well-mannered to be angry, but her tone was clear. I don't feel sorry for her. You're too good for her, Jim. You treated her like a queen, and she betrayed you. A woman who treats her husband like that has no excuse. People like her deserve to burn in hell. Wow, I didn't know you felt so strongly about Bonnie, I said, but I didn't want to talk about Bonnie anymore. What are you doing? It's been a busy day with all our new contracts, and I was expecting your call as soon as I got home. This is great news, Jim. Yes, it is. I can't wait to get home and see you. I'm going to be on the first flight tomorrow morning. Great. Ouch, someone just kicked me. I think our daughter is happy to hear the news. Have a good night, Jim. Your daughter and I will be waiting for you. Thanks for suggesting a walk, Jim. It's good to take my mind off my stomach. It's a beautiful night, and I love walking down this street. I think it's my favorite street in Silver City. I like the old houses and big trees, and it's very quiet and peaceful here. I smiled. I know you like it. That's why I brought you here. We walked up to the house, and then I walked to the front door. Julie looked confused. Why are we here, Jim? I took out the key and started to open the door. Julie looked wary. What are you doing, Jim? This is not our house. You can't enter someone else's house. I turned and smiled at her. Our home. This is our home, Julie. What? I bought it. I knew you liked this street, so when the house came up for sale, I bought it. I opened the door and turned on the light. The house was empty. The previous owners had already moved out. The exterior of the brick house was in good condition, but the inside was outdated. An elderly couple had lived in the house for many years, and it was noticeable. I looked at Julie, who was in shock. I know it's terrible inside, but we'll still do the renovations. Julie looked even more surprised. We will? Well, the Spinoza brothers and their boys. I've already talked to them, and they adore you. They'll start as soon as possible. You just have to tell them what you want. Julie was completely stunned. You know I'm not very good at physical layouts and designs, but you're doing a great job and did a fantastic job designing our new office. So now you can do the same with your new home. Let the Spinoza brothers do whatever you want. If you want to tear down a wall, let them tear it down. If you want a new floor, let them put it in. If you want a different color on the walls, let them paint it. The only thing I want is for one of them to turn this room into an office, and I will design it myself. Julie shook her head in surprise. Is this really our house? I smiled. Yes, and I have complete freedom of action, regardless of the cost. I chuckled. Yes, Julie, houses here are much cheaper than back home. No matter what you do, it will still be cheaper than if we bought something back home. I'm not kidding. By the way, let me show you around the house. I took Julie on a tour. It was a large place with plenty of rooms and a spacious backyard that was already fenced in. Julie looked startled, and I could already see the wheels of renovation turning in her head. The brothers are waiting for your call, so start thinking about what you want to change. They promised to finish the job before the birth. Really? Are you sure? I have a lot to change. I'm sure. They promised me. And don't worry about finding time to be here and at work. I've already arranged everything. Denise's office will help free you. Julie's face lit up. Is it true? Is it true? Julie screamed and hugged me as tightly as her stomach would allow. Oh God, Jim, this is so exciting. You may want to prepare one bedroom first. Would your mom want to come and spend some time with you and the baby? Julie's face showed surprise. Yes, and you don't mind? Of course not. This is your mother. She can come as early as possible and stay as long as she wants. But first, you need to prepare her room. Julie hugged me again. There's one more thing. What Denise told me, I had to pull myself together and make the right choices. I got down on one knee and took Julie's hand. Julie, will you agree to become my wife? Julie's eyes widened in surprise. Is it true? Really? Only if you want to be my wife. Julie's face glowed with happiness. I want to be your wife, and I accept your offer. I smiled. Great, because I want to be your husband for life. And that's another reason we need to get your mom's room ready. I'm guessing you'll want her at the wedding. Julie's face radiated delight. Yes, this is so exciting, Jim. I can't wait to get home and call Mom. I have something else for you. I handed Julie a small jewelry box. She smiled at me. Is this what I'm thinking? I smiled back. Not really. I always thought it was silly for a man to choose such an important thing for his wife. It's like a house. Why should I design it when you know what you want? And why should I choose a ring when I don't know what you like? So open the box. Julie opened the box, which contained a note. She read it aloud. I, Jim, Julie's future husband, agree to take her to every jewelry store she wants until she finds the wedding and engagement rings she likes, after which I will buy them. Does Julie, the woman I want, accept spending the rest of her life with my suggestion?" Julie's eyes watered, and her lower lip trembled slightly, but she nodded in agreement. "Great, then let's go home so you can call your mom and tell her the good news. After that, we can look at the house plans I already loaded into your computer so you can start planning the renovation. Then you can call the Spinoza brothers first thing in the morning and get them started. After you call your mom and see the plans, I can apply vitamin E cream to your belly and take care of other parts of your body that need attention. I heard that our daughter loves it when I please her mom, and it's important to make the ladies in my life happy. What do you think of this story? The main character has literally recovered from such horribly traumatic events. It's very impressive. Write your stories in the comments, and until new videos.